All right, we're reading chapter 12 still. If you have your handouts, we're at the bottom of page 89. Is everybody's turning there? If there are, your son?
Two of them. Sir.
As we're getting ready there, any questions or thoughts on previous?
Can we go back and start from verse 1?
Nope. We can answer a question from there if you have one. Just to recap a little bit, those that were here for sure, from verses 1 and 2. Who's the woman and who's the child, and what's it talking about the pain to be delivered?
Woman is Israel.
Woman is national Israel. Who's the child? The man child.
144,000.
The 144,000 that are going to be saved out of Israel. Now, that doesn't mean that those are the only ones out of Israel that are saved. Don't know how that works, if it's the first 144,000, but they're definitely going to be that number. The Bible's very specific and clear on that in several instances, so that is what it is. How you think, well, how does that work? But it does. Just how it's going to be. 12,000 out of each tribe, and they're going to be protected. As we keep going here where we're at, we're going to see that Satan, and Antichrist, and the beast, they're all going to turn their attention on them. Satan is going to be brought down out of his position of power. He does have some power. He does have some authority. Only what God allows him to have. Too often we credit Satan too much. We kind of make him, all-knowing and all-powerful, and he's not. He can't do anything without God's permission or allowing him to. So when that happens and he's removed from that position of Prince of the Air, which is what we see him referred to as in the Word, he's going to be cast down to the earth. So that ability to move around freely is going to be taken away. Can you imagine after however long it's been since he was cast out into the earth, out of heaven initially, and to be able to have that ability to move around and do whatever, to become like us. They have to move around on the earth and limited. Hopefully that's going to be very demoralizing for him. No, I believe it will be, because as we're going to see, he's going to be angry. He's going to focus his attention on Israel and try to do what he can to destroy them. And God's going to, as he has done oftentimes for Israel, intercede and protect them. All right, then, if there aren't any questions, we are at verse 5 in chapter 12. Yep.
Years ago, there was a sensation among the prophecy people, certain portions about this chapter here. And basically what they were seeing was, in the constellation of Virgo, they were seeing what appeared to be something like this going on. And they thought that the rapture would be coming that year. Do you recall that issue, or?
Don't.
It was really fascinating, and they said it only happens once every 1,000 or so years. I was like, wow, the rapture this year, I thought.
Nope, I don't recall anything on that one.
Okay, maybe it wasn't mainstream. I don't.
Against popular belief, I don't know everything. Quiet, Tim.
Well, let's go.
Not supposed to laugh out loud.
Let's go.
I've been fooled for the last 5 months.
Yep.
Skip to John.
Oh, okay. I have to wait.
Yeah, what's that? I thought I was wrong once, but it was a mistake.
Wait a minute, bro.
The man-child caught up to God's throne, Revelation 12 and 5. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. See, I just noticed we got a whited out spot there. Hopefully I can fill in the blanks. At the moment of birth, the child which is referred to in the masculine gender is caught up to the throne of God, because God's not confused about gender.
Amen. Say that.
Ooh.
This fully developed child is Jewish because of the ancestral descent as an offspring of the woman, which is identified with certainty as Israel. There have been considerable differences of opinion as to the identity of the man-child. Oh, here's where I have to...
I think it's half contented.
Some have contended that this is the New Testament church in rapture. That is, all those who are saved, while some conclude a man-child to be only a part of the church which has met some particular degree or state in Christian development. The woman, if taken to mean either of those, would represent the entire professing church world. The continuity of the whole order of apocalyptic comments connecting the end time program should take precedence, especially after Revelation 4 and 1, which we've discussed again and again, that signifies the rapture of the church, Revelation 4 and 1. For example, the identification of the man-child as the true church, which is caught up while the mass of professing Christians are left to go into the wilderness of tribulation, cannot be true for the following reasons. And he has 4 of them. The church rapture occurrence appears in Revelation 4 and 1, and all events thereafter fall into the third major outline of Revelation, things which shall be hereafter. So we discussed that just a little bit last week, I believe, as well. John was told to write the things which were, which are, and which shall be. So chapters 1 and 2 is talking about things that were and are, actually chapter 3 as well, which were and are, because the churches of the time were directly addressed. And then from 4 on is all future, things that are to come. Let's see. Number 2. If the church were to be the man-child of chapter 12, then it would go through one half of the Great Tribulation, which according to Daniel's 70th week, the last week or last 7 years of Jacob's trouble, has no relation to the church, but speaks directly to the lost house of Israel. And he's referenced the scripture many times thus far, stating that a furnace for the trying of Israel, Jacob's trouble, I forget what they all are right off the hand. There's like several, and they are specifically referring to Israel. So again, we discussed this last week as well. The tribulation is twofold. One is to bring judgment on the world for sin, and that's actually, should have stated that as number 2. Number 1, which is always top priority for God, is to turn the hearts of men back towards him, specifically Israel. So the things that take place during the tribulation and what God is orchestrating during that time is fully intended to be one last opportunity, not only for mankind, but specifically for Israel to come back into right standing with him. Number 3, the woman who supposedly represents Christendom as a whole is believed to be clothed with the righteousness of Christ. If these had belonged to Christ, then they would have gone to be with him in the general church rapture. For if the woman is the professing ecclesiastical society, or the church world, and the man-child is Christ, then the church would have brought forth Christ. But on the contrary, it was Christ who purchased the church by his own blood, giving his life for it. The man-child is Christ seems to be the most favorable among interpreters and commentators. The following reasons, however, should be carefully analyzed, not to prove anyone wrong or to out-argue the opponent, but to seek an end-time truth which may have become clearer with the regathering of Israel in the last days. The thought which suggests the man-child to be Christ is mainly contained in the prophecy concerning the seed of the woman. So you understand what he's saying here? He's trying to say that in that verse that the man-child is specifically Christ, which this is another, again, one of those things that I don't get. I don't understand that. He can explain it all he wants to. I don't understand that line of thinking at all. We'll go on. In her seed it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. With the whole continuity of chronological events in the narrative or history of Israel relating to Satan's attempt to destroy the promised seed. The madman Herod, which his diabolical acts to kill all male children in an effort to destroy the Christ child, is therefore interpreted to fulfill these events of Scripture recorded in chapter 12, along with the scriptural reference of Christ being caught up to the throne of God until his enemies are made his footstool, and the fact that he is to rule the nations with a rod of iron, all of which on the surface seem to imply that the man-child can be none other than the Christ of God. There are many reasons, however, to reconsider the analysis and seek a more favorable interpretation. For example, the study of events involving the woman, the man-child, and the dragon prove without doubt that they exist together after the church rapture, which places each of these events in the period of the Great Tribulation, which also goes along with what we're already saying, that everything after chapter 4 is future. Therefore, to take the man-child back in time, suggesting him to be Christ, is out of harmony with the prophecy concerning things which must shortly come to pass. The woman who represents national Israel is regathered back to her homeland for the purpose of undergoing the most critical time of her long existence. This time of Jacob's trouble, spoken of many times by the prophets, is herein expressed again in these words. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. Returning from their lands of captivity, these sons of Abraham find themselves again encompassed about by the nations in great oppression. The Wailing Wall today has never before in Israel's past history, as never before, I'm sorry. It's like that didn't make sense. Is hearing the sobs and intense agonizing pain for God to hear and deliver. These prophecies contained in chapter 12 relate to an end-time on-the-spot happening and not to an historical event which occurred many years ago. The fact that Christ will rule with a rod of iron is not conclusive proof that he is the one intended here in verse 5. This rule with a rod of iron simply speaks of those who rule over the nations. This could apply to all Old Testament saints because they are to rule with Christ during the millennium according to the following scriptures. We've got Daniel, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. The New Testament church will also reign with Christ. Also, there is yet another group which are known as tribulation saints, who have obtained victory over the beast and will rule and reign with Christ. All those who are counted worthy will have the honor to rule and execute judgment. The same basic principle that Christ is the man-child because he is to rule the nations. Therefore, could be applied to any of those individuals mentioned in the above groups. Neither does the historical account of Christ's ascension from the Mount of Olives prove him to be the one represented by the man-child. It is not the intention of the prophecy to relate past events, but to record happenings which must shortly come to pass. That is, future happenings of the last days. There are 13 divisions recorded in the Revelations which depict the times of sorrow relating in particular to the rebellious house of Israel. These divisions begin with chapter 6 and find their consummation in chapter 19, when Christ returns at the second advent. This particular time of trouble invoked upon the chosen people, Israel, is unprecedented in all of her troubled past. The prophets of old understood and spoke often of this horrible time which would befall their people. Jeremiah calls it the time of Jacob's trouble. Ezekiel speaks of this time as a furnace for melting Israel. Daniel calls it a time of trouble. Joel sees the same period of distress and exclaims it to be a day of darkness and gloominess. Jesus warns his own to watch and pray always that they may be able to escape this time of great tribulation. How do you do that? You go in the rapture.
You gotta be ready for it.
Yep. You got to be ready for it. The time of Israel's bondage began when they were carried away down into the land of Egypt. There will have been 7 world Gentile empires that precede the kingdom of Antichrist, which have suppressed Israel during the times of the Gentiles. This is depicted by the 7 heads on the dragon. An 8th kingdom comes to view in the 17th division of the book, protruding out from among the 7 horns. A uniting of the old Roman Empire will be the fulfillment of both Daniel and Revelation. So this kingdom that he's talking about is yet to come. That, however, doesn't mean that it's not forming today. I think that all of the stuff that we're seeing right now, really pushing for this, one world order, is the root of that. Whether that will be those involved directly in that or not, I don't know. But again, I think we talked about this last week also. Think about for one individual, the Antichrist, to come on the scene and how easy it would be, because once again we go back and look in past and think of how in the world can that be possible for one person to gain world power. But if what we're talking about gets laid out and put into effect, where several nations are now in control and dictating everything, and people fall in line with that, for one man to get control over that group, that wouldn't be too difficult to imagine at all.
I think a partial beginning of that occurred this last Monday with the advent of Fed Now. Fed Now is the beginning of the CBDC, which is a digital currency. This now is becoming passe.
Well,
It is.
Go that further.
I'm serious. This is something they've been planning for a long time.
Oh yeah,
It's not.
that's.
I used to teach, so I can say.
We've talked about this just a little bit, but yes, all of that. What better way to control? They can do it now. They could go in and freeze and shut down your bank account and clean it out, and you can't do a thing about it. But even easier if it was all just digital, virtual money, just to touch a button and wait a minute. We have track of all this because it's digital. You're spending your money where? You're involved in what? No, we don't like that.
Well, that's exactly what CBDCs do. They're programmable. I don't know how many.
What's the bank in New York right now that just stated they're coming out with their digital?
Chase?
Was it? No,
I don't know.
So one of the big ones. I mean, this was just within the last couple of days. Said they have now put out their digital currency.
Oh.
I can't remember which one it was. They're all in New York, so that doesn't really matter. One of the big ones just within the last, I want to say it was yesterday, announced releasing of their. There's several of them that have been running trials of this.
Yeah.
Trying to see how, what the implications are. Basically, trying to figure out where any slip-ups would be for them to not manage it the way they want to manage it. But it's coming. Okay, what he just did, that literally will be the case. Other than to have tangibles such as gold or silver or something like that, paper money is going to be useless.
And like I said earlier, Jamie Dimon, head of Chase, that's a $55 trillion bank, not billion. He says this is just the beginning of the bank turmoil. And when things start rocking, people are going to demand government intervention. And they will accept the devil if you offer to them. Give me something digital.
That's exactly
right.
That's exactly what they're doing. Is we create enough issues. I mean, we see it all over it now. It's all in the name of safety. We're watching out for you.
You don't even have to work too hard to hide it. I mean,
No.
People will say the New World Order is a conspiracy when they literally go on TV and use the word New World Order.
You're right.
Oh, that's not. It's like they just said it. They just said that was exactly. No.
I am amazed and ashamed to say this. That okay, all in all, people are stupid.
Common sense is not.
It's just stuff like what he's saying. I mean, they don't. There was a time you had to dig and figure it out. They're not even hiding it anymore. And people aren't saying anything about it. It's like, okay.
And it's stuff like that. I mean, you got to figure when they run the public school systems, and then the banking systems, and then the healthcare system, and then all. I mean, it's all orchestrated.
It's all part of it. Yep. Now, Tim, I think you kind of keep track of this stuff, so you can help me here. 2 or 3 nations right now in the financial, they're in cahoots to intentionally devalue the American dollar.
You're talking about the BRICS nations.
Perhaps, yeah.
Russia, India,
China and Russia.
Yeah, I mean it's again, they're not hiding it. They're on an all-out effort to make our. There was a time when the American dollar was the strongest. They're doing their best.
There's been several countries in the past week that switched their reserve, like, or their whatever currency to from the dollar to the yeah.
There was 9 banks that were included in that digital.
I 100% believe that the reason there's no even some kind of cryptic reference. I do not think the United States is a country even in the next 20 years. I don't think it's
a possibility.
Not as we know it now.
And you know what? Where where it's being destroyed from? Within. Yep, we're destroying ourselves.
What was one of the we've suffered multiple trigger events in recent decades, like 9/11.
Right.
It led to massive encroachment in the national security state. The COVID, the massive encroachment of the biosecurity state. Now, with the banking crisis, what's the solution? Oh, well, we can roll out a CBDC so we can track everything you do. It'll be programmable. After all, you don't want people doing illegal things with their money, and you'll never again have another Silicon Valley bank. Isn't that just convenient?
We're streaming on Facebook Live, so get ready for it to get shut down. Because you want to hear another conspiracy theory?
Yep.
All right, the whole COVID, you can't even say those words, and then they're going against whatever. So I don't care. I'll wind up in jail with Kenny. Kenny's always in Facebook jail.
You know what Facebook is the continuation of DARPA's LifeLog project. It was shut down in 2004.
So whatever the thoughts of this doesn't happen. It's engineered. I don't care what you say. How easy is it now for scientists to engineer biological warfare and target specific genetics?
Oh, there's something lying somewhere.
Okay, then think about how dumb again people are don't have any realization, because in fact, I was watching one of the Senate hearings, and one of the senators started questioning and asking why this was being done. What are all of these ancestry sites where you send in your spit? Yeah, guess what they're collecting?
DNA.
What are they doing with that? They're selling it to China.
Yeah.
I'm serious. So we're willingly, I want to know what my ancestry is. Here, take my DNA. We're giving it to them. So now guess what they can engineer and target? You. Specifically. Now, this isn't just making up. Like I said, I was actually watching a Senate hearing, and one of the senators was calling out one of these people and saying, why are you selling this stuff to China? What are they doing with it? And never got an answer.
Of course not.
Of course not.
Somebody give an answer at Congress.
So if you're into the ancestry stuff, watch it.
I think that's what started the storm banks.
What?
The storm banks. I think that started all that too. I mean,
Could be.
maybe that's the reason that all comes out.
Sell it to China.
I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. There is so much going on behind the scenes, and it goes so deep that things that we think, that's ridiculous. And everybody always looks at the things that Satan does, and they view it that way. Okay, within the church, when people start to adhere to holiness, and we refrain from whatever. That's ridiculous. That stuff's so innocent. It doesn't matter. And then before you know it, that's exactly the thing that Satan has used to take down the families and to destroy the homes and society and all of these things. So we look at these things and say, that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter until it does.
Yes, right.
So all of this stuff is taking place, and what we're reading about here, and the ability for this to so easily take place it's so close and already laid out that we don't even realize. Sorry, let's have your hand up for a long time.
That's okay. I was just kind of on the lines with what Oni said. It makes you wonder, these aborted babies being sold, you wonder if they're using their DNA too against us.
Sure.
Absolutely.
I just had this issue recently with a minister, a PhD woman, and he's like, Hugh, the Sermon on the Mount, really? That's not for Christians. Meekness, are you kidding me? That's weakness. You want people to walk over? And I pointed out to him, he was a little bit shocked, and I said, sir, Jesus was meek. Did they walk all over him? Now, he willingly gave his life.
That's it.
That's
the definition of meekness. Strength.
Yeah, I was going to say, go to the bank and try to take some money out of it.
Yeah.
The first thing they ask you is, what are you doing?
Yeah. I'm going to go get me some nunya.
Yeah. Light ammunition, light ammunition. What is it? That's the truth. They want to know what you do. And who they report it to? The federal government.
But why they need to know? It's none of their business. I mean, you could just lie.
They don't need to know, but they're into your business because they want to be able to manipulate. That's exactly it. All right, let's go on. Sorry.
I'll say none of it. They asked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them you don't
What about
stop
how much
it.
money you take out, or was it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you have more than $5,000 of cash on you and get pulled over, the cops are legally allowed to detain you and take your money. I know there is an amount. I think it's $5,000.
Yeah, because they want to know why you're carrying
It
it.
might be 10,000. Yeah, like if you got it, they can legally
I know that
hold
if
you
you're
right
trying to
there.
go for the border, it's 10. You can't have more than 10,000. That's crazy though. That's nuts. Because it's technically your money. I mean, if you're getting it, not borrowing it, but drawing it.
Yeah, that's how they look at it. All right, let's go to verse 6 here. Israel flees into the wilderness of Edom and Moab. And the woman,
I'm sorry. So in 5, we read through a page and a half of a lot of words. I'm serious. Sometimes he stresses me out. a lot of words, and he's going with the flow that man-child is driving.
No, he actually isn't. He was stating that as some of the common thoughts and why they think that, but no, he's saying the same thing, that it's the woman is national Israel and the man-child is those that are going to be saved out of Israel.
Is the 144,000.
Correct. Yeah.
He said a lot of nothing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right.
We didn't even finish that section. You're on the time of Israel's
Yeah.
bondage after escaping the Great Tribulation.
Yeah, no, we were done here. There's no other significance.
Okay.
He's just kind of reiterating what he's already talking about. All right, verse 6. The woman fled into the wilderness where she hath a place prepared of God, and they should feed her there 1,260 days. The catching up of the man-child separates the two companies of Israelites, that is, those caught away and those left behind. The latter, which this 6th verse deals with, are symbolized by the woman. Many have supposed that there is a gap between verses 5 and 6. This period of time, according to this school of thought, would of necessity have covered the entire church age. Verse 5 describing the birth of Christ and his ascension, then verse 6 jumping the gap or entire church age, which at the present time is almost 2,000 years old, and witness Israel's flight into the wilderness to escape the man of sin. This theory is most inconsistent, in that both the events surrounding the woman and her child occur after the church age, which places them into the Great Tribulation. Also, this would give no recorded time for the life and sacrificial death of Christ. For the man-child at birth was caught up to the throne of God in heaven. A part of this interpretation is true, which recognizes the woman fleeing into the wilderness to be God's chosen people, Israel. The interpretations which suggest the sun-clothed woman to be the church usually fall into one of two categories. First, those who believe the church will go through one half of the Great Tribulation. All who adhere to this doctrine are known as mid-tribulationists. The second category adheres to the church rapture taking place before the Great Tribulation, insisting, however, that the man-child is the true church caught away at the rapture. While the woman who represents Christendom as a whole is protracted into the Great Tribulation and is seen fleeing from the Antichrist, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever for the mid-tribulation theory or for the theory which suggests that chapter 12 contains the church rapture. So he's very straightforward with that. The book of Daniel, chapter 9, which deals with the 70th week, proves beyond a shadow of doubt that the last week or 7-year period deals with Israel and not the church. Also, the church age in chapters 2 and 3, which constitutes the second part of Revelation's 3 major phase outline. After the things which are, the church will have left the earth, leaving no room for her to go into great tribulation. This outline given in Revelation 1:19 places all events occurring after Revelation 4:1 in the major systematic category of things which shall be hereafter. Those who adhere to the man-child as being the raptured church usually insist that they who are snatched away are special individuals, apart from the main church body, having reached a particular degree of holiness or spiritual growth. I think they call themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. They contend that the woman is composed of those who are truly saved, but lacking enough oil to go with the bridegroom. This school of thought in general adheres to the fact that the church rapture occurring in Revelation 4:1. If this interpretation is true, then it would leave the woman or those who are merely saved stranded in the mid-tribulation, because she is protected of God for only 1,260 days, or 3.5 years. Without doubt, the woman is national Israel, and from all indication, her child is none other than the 144,000, which are caught up from her ranks to fill heavenly, prestigious positions with the Lamb. The woman, then, is seen fleeing into the wilderness. This benevolent guidance of divine care and preparation for the outcast sons of Jacob has managed a place, and there God shall feed them. So there's going to be another rapture that's going to take place. Then we ask the question sometimes, how many raptures are mentioned in the Bible? Well, if you just consider rapture meaning being caught away, then there's several. There's the rapture of the church, and there's individuals that were taken away before that. But then here, during the tribulation, the 144,000 are also going to be raptured. And then, and I think I may have said this incorrectly before, then the beast and Antichrist and Satan himself going to focus their attention. In fact, I'm pretty sure I said the 144,000 is actually the remainder of national Israel that hasn't been raptured. So that if I said that before, I apologize. I'm pretty sure I did say it that way. That's not right.
Yes, sir. There's a situation where Jesus was talking about when Jerusalem is surrounded, and some people talk about Jews running to Petra for preservation. Now, that was 70 AD, or do you think that's future?
No, that's future. That's what we're getting ready.
Oh,
that's what we're talking about here.
Jumping ahead. Okay.
Not by much. That's what we're talking about here. Because then, when the 144,000 are raptured, and then the remaining flee to the wilderness, that is what that's referring to.
But there's nothing in Petra. Well, there's got to be some ravens out there.
Yeah. Well, just like manna from heaven, God's going to feed them.
I've always been wondering, but I never asked the question.
Yeah. I mean, not saying that it is manna from heaven, but God's going to be the one that's going to supply their needs.
McDonald's, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see. What's that?
At the woman that is sleeping.
We do not know. There we go. We do not know. Okay, here we go. We're just saying this. What methods God will use to sustain Israel. However, in times past, He rained bread from heaven to feed their forefathers when they were hungry and when there was no food. When the people grew tired of manna, the Lord spoke to the quails, and they covered the camp enough to sustain all the people with meat. In the hot desert, when man and beast were thirsty, water was made to run from a rock. The bitter waters of Marah were made sweet for the people of God to drink. The scriptures say of the woman that God has a place prepared and shall feed her. Think of it. A special place prepared of God. The wanderers who have been banished from country to country, those sons of Jacob who have been hated, hunted, and hounded from ghetto to the guillotines, now have a place of refuge. It has been prepared for them by the God of their fathers. This intervention of God is most fitting and timely. The woman, Israel, has returned from afar. The nations have not been able to contain her sons. They are back to the home of their forefathers, a land of promise. However, all is not at rest. For an impostor, the notorious one, will engulf the Holy Land, claiming to be their long-awaited Messiah. This particular group, failing to accept the man of sin and deception, and having been severely pressured, will flee for their lives. The lands of Edom, Moab, and Ammon, which escaped the hand of Antichrist, will be given and made a place of refuge for this company of Jews during the last part of the Great Tribulation. There are three companies of Jews mentioned in chapter 12: the man-child, the woman, and the remnant. The aforesaid man-child is caught up or translated to escape the seventh trumpet judgment. The dragon tries then to destroy the woman who is helped of God and given a place of refuge. The dragon then in wrath turns upon the remnant of the woman's seed who are left in and around Jerusalem. So those that they're not quite acknowledging or accepting, recognizing whatever it is that's happening, they're going to stay put and they're going to pay for it. Her seed consists of those of the Jewish race who are helped by the two witnesses, who in the midst of trouble will turn their hearts to the Christ of God. Okay, let's see. What time is it? I don't have my What is it?
4 minutes
Oh,
till.
4 till? Alright, well, yeah, we won't get through that last one in 4 minutes. Alright, we'll go ahead and stop there. Read this next part and kind of study it out, because there's definitely some questions to go over here in this part. Any closing questions or thoughts?
On this study Bible I have, it's more of a Pentecostal site. It says, when it talks about the woman, it says, this woman refers to the faithful of Israel, through whom the Messiah came into this world. This is indicated not only by the birth of the child, but also by the reference to the sun and the moon and the 12 stars, which would naturally refer to the 12 tribes of Israel. So they're very specific about it. I'm not saying Israel in general. Because Israel in general is very secular to this day. I mean, they are kind of like the headquarters of the LGBTQ. You know, they celebrate openly out in Tel Aviv. I've seen them. So it's not really a whole nation as a whole.
If they're going to be part of the 144,000, they'll have to change their opinion.
Well, I'm talking about the majority, but there is a minority there, you know, that won't be true.
Wasn't it just last week they said that Israel has started,
Expanding it, yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't hear.
Yeah,
Yeah, last week, they passed law.
talk about getting kicked off Facebook. Okay, let's talk about, like you were talking about the banks and all this stuff going on and the healthcare. Like, I'm sorry, like I know they're God's chosen nation. The Jewish people in Israel are responsible for some of the most horrific war crimes and like it is awful. Like, I mean, I know they're God's chosen people, but they also killed Jesus, and it's, I mean,
No, that's true.
Even to this day, they are not a, you know.
Well,
Not much of street
you think about it though, anytime anyone, doesn't matter who it is, when they reject Christ, when they've been presented with Christ,
They lost that favor.
they go off the deep end.
Yeah, they're not as chosen.
Once you do that, then you the sin and the evil and what have you, there's no limit to it. So even though they are His chosen, once they did that, and that opened the door for all kinds of depravity. So yep, and it's going to take something drastic like the tribulation period for many of them to open their eyes and recognize, hey, we were wrong.
You know, Jesus said that. He said, narrow is the way that leads to eternal life, and few there be that find it. So it doesn't matter what nation you're talking about.
Right.
You know.
Nope, not at all.
I don't care if you're talking about the United States or Chile, you know, for that matter.
Nope, that's a fact. It doesn't.
It's crazy to think, when you stop and think about this, of when like the 12 tribes were started, that even this many years, that there's still like those that are just, okay, this is a tribe of Jacob, these are,
How they're separated like that, yeah.
yeah,